Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Rotary's weekly celebration of service. My name is Tracy Ivanovich, and I'm honored to serve as your president. And what a glorious day out there, right? We were just talking about all the birds singing. It's so wonderful to have the sun out. Our thought for the day: to say you have no choice is to relieve yourself of responsibility. That's from Patrick Ness, who is an author, lecturer, and screenwriter. And I thought that was another one that was very good to remember in today's environment. From a reflection standpoint, I'm pulling an audible. We're gonna do something a little bit different today. I'm going to share some notes that Steve Wicks took from the meeting that the city had last week. On Thursday, our mayor called all nonprofit agencies and asked them to join her to kind of go through what's happening and what are the facts about what's happening in the environment today from a state, national, and local perspective. And I thought there were some really good notes. He represented us at the mayor's gathering. It also included fellow Rotarians Amy Kindle from Beacon, Shelley Salih from HealthNet, and Michelle Cohen from the Water Friends of Lake Monroe. He took extensive notes, so thank you, Steve. I feel these are important because as a club, our motto, service above self, and how the community is currently being impacted by the rapidly changing environment is important. And I think it'll help encourage us that the civic leaders are being proactive to the extent possible. So with that, bear with me. Steve's notes. The event was well attended. Mayor Thompson did a good job leading the gathering, and attendees made good points and asked sensible questions. Here are a few notes that he jotted down. First, the city of Bloomington is paying close attention to Indiana Senate Bill 1, as it has the potential to significantly impact city funding. 2, Bloomington police have been instructed to focus on local policing, which does not include helping ICE. Mayor Thompson asked attendees to call her office if they hear of local ICE rumors. She asked attendees to call the police if they believe that someone may be imitating an ICE officer, which has been happening in other communities. Exodus has red cards available that succinctly tell ordinary people what their rights are if they are approached by ICE. Third, Exodus and one other organization talked about the need for interpreters when Bloomington police interact with non-English speakers. Mayor Thompson indicated that there are legal requirements governing interpreter certifications in some situations. The city of Bloomington is exploring technology solutions to help with this situation and help garner better conversation between police and non-English speakers. Fourth, Mayor Thompson stated that Medicaid cuts will do great damage to local health care in ways that will be rippling through the community. Fifth, she reiterated her support for the trans community. Evidently, some community leaders have asked that the support be very vocal, while others have asked that the support be very quiet. This is a reflection of the environment that we live in today. Sixth, one nonprofit head commented that rising insurance costs and deductibles have hurt their economics. Mayor Thompson reminded attendees about the availability of housing vouchers for housing issues. Lesley then spoke from HealthNet and told the group that there is an upcoming congressional vote regarding the funding of community health centers. HealthNet is the only community health center in Bloomington. Shelley went on to add that possibly as many as 250,000 individuals will be cut off from Medicaid by the state of Indiana. That's a lot of people. Ninth, there was much interest in the room in advocacy training on how to more effectively communicate with and lobby decision makers. The United Way volunteered to make this happen, so be on the lookout for that. 10th, the mall mobility aids lending library representative is looking for free handicap accessible space near the center of Bloomington to meet their growing needs. So I thought you guys would like that plug. Next, the Girl Scouts have a new community engagement representative. Next, Mayor Thompson told the group that communities with high volunteer rates have high voter turnouts. Many attendees applauded the trend away from project-based funding towards general giving that can cover administrative costs. And at least a couple of speakers, led by the head of Mother Hubbard's Cupboard, stated the current need should drive endowment funds to stop growing their endowments and even spend down their endowments. Later in the meeting, someone pushed Marcus at the Community Foundation to spend 6% of their funds this coming year. So again, more dialogue and more communication between our civic leaders as well as the nonprofits, which I think is a huge plus for us to see. There were other communications that came across. I think in general, and again, Steve's observations, the attendees exhibited emotions such as concern, distraught, stressed, etc. Most of them are already struggling to meet community needs. The public funding cuts that some have already experienced and others expect to experience are a big, big deal. It was encouraging to see local government and nonprofits working together, and it's my understanding from Steve that Shelley Solis spoke very, very eloquently, so it's nice that a fellow Rotarian is standing up and acting. And with that, I'll ask Hank to introduce our guests.
Thanks, Tracy. We have 4 guests today. 2 guests of Lesley Davis, Susan Sizer, and Marche Daughtry. Would you please stand so we can stand or raise your hand so you can be recognized? One. Pardon? Yeah, yes, we have a guest of Michael Shermas, Karen Willison. And then we also have with us the esteemed Dean of the University of Toledo Law School, where a good friend of mine just graduated, Rebecca Zietlow. I'll let you guess whose guest she is. Do we have any guests online?
Other than Raj, I do not believe so unless I missed somebody.
Okay, if you have any interest in joining the club, there are lots of people at your table to chat with. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go on a limb and guess that's Charlotte's guest. All right, birthdays. Rex Hillary, happy birthday on the 13th. And then for anniversaries, Jim Capshaw is 7 years. So congratulations on that front. And I have a quick announcement here from Diana, if you would.
Hello, everyone. This is just a reminder that the Bloomington Rotary Club is offering a community service impact grant for a local nonprofit. There are 700 nonprofits in Monroe County, so you have a lot to choose from. I'm sure any of them would be grateful for a project that includes a $6,000 grant. The club is currently accepting proposals from any club member who partners with a nonprofit. The grants must make a significant lasting impact on the work of the nonprofit and engage at least 25 Rotarians in a day of service. Some of the other goals are listed on the grant request for proposals that I handed out this morning, and I have extra handouts with me today. The handout is also available in the roundabout issue that went out February 23rd. Funding will be available in the first week of August. Applications are due this month by March 28th, and the project timeline runs from August through the end of March. If you have any questions, you can contact me, Sarah Laughlin, or Jeff Richardson. Thank you.
All right, a few more announcements. So you still have time to sign up for the district conference on 4/26 at Keystone at the Crossing. Again, great opportunity to network, learn more about Rotary, and just talk and chat with people. It's a lot of fun. They're having training sessions, lots of informational sessions. It's going to be great. So signs. How many of you remember that we are sponsoring Rotary signs that will be going up in various places? Okay, 3. No. Okay, so let's try again. How many of you remember? No. In all seriousness, special thanks to Phil Askew. He's driving that. We are third in the queue to get those signs put up. They will be coming. So if you see Phil, tell him thank you for his perseverance. Next time I ask, I'm sure I'll see a lot more hands on that one. District opportunities. The district, Rotary District needs help in filling a couple of positions. There's a Polio Plus chair that's needed, and there's also a disaster response chair needed. So if you're interested in pursuing that, I've got information on it, and we can get you in contact with the district office. So let me know. And then lastly, enjoy an evening with Judge Talaferro. Let me try this. How many of you know who Judge Talaferro is? Okay, I like that much better. So an amazing woman, had great impact on our community. There's going to be a production. You can journey with her from rural Virginia to Alabama, not lower Alabama, Decatur, in Washington, D.C., Texas, California, Maryland, and Bloomington. Her experiences as an educator, an administrator, judge, mother, and wife of course, George Talaferro, the first Black NFL player, led her to remind women that there is nothing that a woman can't do, and we must make men understand that. Many of you may know Resilience Productions. Gladys Devane, Liz Mitchell, they are putting on a show. It is going to be at the History Center over on 6th and Washington, roughly. And I'm missing my little pamphlet, but it's the 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. Tickets will be going fast. There's a pamphlet up front that tells you a little about it on the desk. So if you're interested, I encourage you to get some tickets and go see it. Should be quite great. And next, Mr. Shermis, we have an introduction for our speaker that we've been waiting for since the big snowstorm. So with that, Mr. Shermis.
So this is a interesting convergence of my worlds. With Rotary having been it for 13 years, but I've been the Council for Community Accessibility liaison for that council for 10 years now. This is kind of a cool thing for me to be able to connect with some of my different people, different worlds. Let me start off with the formal stuff. Lesley Davis has lived in Bloomington since 1995 when she came to IU as a graduate student. She served 21 years as the Assistant Dean for International Programs at IU's Moore School of Law. She is the chair of the City of Bloomington's Council for Community Accessibility, the CCA, and a founder of the Mobility Aids Lending Library, along with a couple other people in the audience. She has recently become the Vice President for North American Partnerships at Access Able, a UK accessibility company that recently incorporated in the US. Now the fun stuff. Lesley has been a magnificent partner for my work to make this community more accessible to people with disabilities, or as we like to say, for everyone. She has done that with fantastic support for so many of the CCA's efforts. She's always been game to start new initiatives, to rally the troops around event planning, to come out to work with engineers and planners in the field, to review possible solutions to parking challenge, and so much more. I could tell you about her efforts. You'll be impressed when you get to see it. And I would be remiss if I did not say thanks to some of the other CCA members and MAL members, Susan Sizer and Karen Wilson, both members of MAL, and Marche Daughtry is also on the Council for Community Accessibility. I will say too that Lesley has been more than a partner for CACA. She has been a friend to me and has given me some excellent advice, and I think you're going to enjoy what she has to say. So without further ado, Lesley.
What my wheelchair does. Can you all hear me? Okay. Right. So, Michael, thank you. You're not only my favorite Rotarian, you're one of my favorite people ever. So I chose this picture because it's an illustration of the curb cut effect. Thank you. Has anybody heard of the curb cut effect? Well, for those of you who haven't, it's basically, it refers to the phenomenon where design features implemented to benefit a specific group, perhaps a marginalized group like people with disabilities. These features end up providing unexpected advantages to a much broader population. So essentially, making something accessible for a minority group inadvertently benefits everyone else as well. And using curb cuts are great for those of us who are wheelchair users. They're also really great for people pushing strollers, people tugging along luggage, people who are a little bit unsure of their footing and don't do well with curbs. So this is part of saying that disability is not at all unusual or rare. Okay, so this is an example of one of the things that the Council for Community Accessibility does. You'll see Michael Shermis is in the middle. A young lady named Zoe Waters is on the far side. She is now a senior in high school, and I'm on the near side. And we are speaking to a classroom of fourth graders, I believe. What I'm here to talk to you about today are three things. And all of them have one overarching theme, which is making quality of life better for everyone. So the Council for Community Accessibility, the Mobility Aids Lending Library, and even my most recent employer, Access Able USA, have that in common. One of the things we're doing is we're talking to fourth graders before they're too old to be too jaded and too judgmental. We're talking to them about a disability and just how absolutely normal and boring and mundane it is. And kids at this age love seeing a wheelchair go up and down, love asking questions, and boy, show them an accessible van. They feel like a spaceship has landed in their parking lot. Okay, so more than 1 in 4 adults in the United States has a disability. That's according to the CDC. So do you know what this percentage is equivalent to. 1 in 4, or 28.7%, is greater than the number of Hoosiers who identify as having German ancestry. So everybody in this room knows somebody with a German-sounding last name. And therefore, I guarantee that everybody in this room knows somebody with a disability, even if you already know me, right? The definition of disability, according to the Americans with Disabilities Act, is a physical or mental impairment that significantly limits a person's ability to perform major life activities. The ADA also includes people who have a history of such an impairment, who are perceived by others as having such an impairment. So major life activities are basic activities that most people can perform with little or no difficulty. So taking that expansive view of disability, probably more of you in this room than would have originally thought could also identify as having a disability. Okay, and the statistics in Indiana are even higher. So 29%, or about 29% of adults in Indiana have a disability. In Bloomington, persons with disabilities comprise an estimated 11,000 unique individuals. So that is a population that constitutes one of the largest and most diverse marginalized demographics in the city. Disability is the most intersectional of all identities. It affects people regardless of age, race, gender, sexual orientation, class, political persuasion. Any one person may find themselves as a part of this community at any stage in their life. Just look at me. I wasn't born with my disability. I became disabled overnight. So live long enough and it will happen to you too. So given that disability is so very normal, why do we not pay more attention to it? So in terms of employment, people with disabilities are in employment, working age people, less than 50%, as compared with the national average of 82.5%. In Indiana, the poverty rate of working age people with disabilities was 25.3%. In terms of educational attainment, in the United States, 38.6% of people without a disability achieve a BA degree or higher, in contrast with 18.7% of people with disabilities. How do you think we stand up? How do you think we rate in Indiana? 36.7% of people with disabilities have a high school diploma only. Some college or associate's degrees. So this is good news for Ivy Tech. People with disabilities do tend to go more than people without disabilities to community colleges. But the percentage with a bachelor's degree or higher in Indiana was 14.5%, as opposed to the national average, which was 4 points higher. Okay, people don't talk enough about the spending power of people with disabilities. So the total disposable income, that's income for your needs and your wants after taxes, for working age Americans with disabilities was $490 billion. Compared with other major minority populations, African Americans, $501 billion, Latinx folks, $582 billion. Where it gets especially interesting and this is a function of disability being so intersectional, is that when you get to discretionary income, so not just not the needs and wants, but just the wants. Income of people with disabilities, discretionary income is 21 billion. That's more than the other two populations I mentioned, Latinx and African Americans combined. So think about the income, think about the impact that this $21 billion in discretionary income could have on Bloomington in terms of tourism, conferences, conventions, and as an educational destination. All right. Now, the Council for Community Accessibility, which I hope you have all heard of, you probably have because you know Michael Shermis. It was founded in January of 1990 in advance of the ADA being passed, the Americans with Disabilities Act being passed later that summer. And it was founded and led by our wonderful guest, Karen Willison's mom. Yep. So she's got a long history with this group. You can find our website on the city's website. Have a look at it, please. Woohoo! And please join me in appreciating the incredible creativity and skills of this man, Michael Shermis, who since 2015, yay, has been the staff liaison for the Council for Community Accessibility. And he, in 2024, he became the city's ADA coordinator and human rights coordinator as well. Okay, so this is what the CCA does. And we do assessment to seek information about the strengths and needs of people with disabilities, awareness raising to educate all segments of the community regarding accessibility. We do actual accessibility work to promote access to places of public accommodation, housing programs, and services. We are very into affinity to develop coalitions with groups that share similar interests. We are big into advocacy to empower and work alongside people with disabilities to promote their best interests. And finally, advice to serve as a resource to the community about a pan-disability slate of issues. Okay. All right, so here are some of our initiatives and events. We were very instrumental in getting the closed captioning ordinance passed in City of Bloomington. Here is a great example of a curb cut effect. Having closed captioning on in public places doesn't only help people who are visually impaired. It helps when it's really noisy in, I don't know, Knicks, and you want to watch the game, or wherever you watch the game, and you want to see what the score is, right? It helps when you are trying to watch the Great British Baking Show. It's the same language, but really, what are they saying, you know? We have an accessibility decal program, so you can show to others that your business cares about being accessible to people with disabilities. Our accessible transportation and mobility principles are working their way through the city council, basically so that accessibility is considered in all things having to do with transportation and mobility in the city. We have an accessible events checklist, which I encourage you all to check out. I'll show you in a minute where you can find it. We hosted a couple of really great mayoral candidate fora. We work annually with the city on engineering training, where those of us with various disabilities go out with the city engineers and show them why it's a problem that you have the steepest, most dangerous curb cut in Bloomington right across from the convention center, for example. We host the annual ADA celebration in Showers Plaza in the middle of summer, and it's very hot, so please come and, and join us and fan us. And we host an annual event called Gather Round the Table, which we've done everything from disability in the arts to accessible travel to book reading. Yeah, that's something open to everyone. Okay, our meetings, last Monday of the month, and it's actually from usually 4 to 5:30. Everyone is welcome. You can also join on Zoom. And also on the website, you'll see our accessible events checklist. Just a couple of tips. What makes an event accessible? Well, if you are providing documents, they need to be in accessible formats, which means things like sans serif font, sufficient color contrast, also needs to be readable by a screen reader, which is not that hard, believe it or not. You need to have physically accessible spaces. You need to be prepared to have sign language interpretation. You need to use a microphone, even if you speak loudly, because people often have the ability to hook in with hearing aids and other assistive listening devices as long as your sound is amplified. And you need to describe what you're showing on your slides. And I'm showing a very somewhat boring slide of the city's webpage where I have circled accessible event checklist. Okay. All right. Yes. So just as women belong in all places where decisions are being made, showing a slide with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, women and people with disabilities belong in all places where decisions are being made, and also in all businesses and locations in Bloomington. And I would argue worldwide, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Okay, so three of the people pictured here, you have Susan Sizer, Casey Garino, who's not with us today, but she's one of our founding mall members, Karen Willison, myself, and Marche Daughtry also on our board. We are sitting in our wheelchairs in our very small space in the basement of the First Christian Church, where we have our larger mobility aids stored. Okay, so Mobility Aids Lending Library was born out of the efforts of those of us who had mobility equipment that we knew somebody else could use. We also did not want to see all of this mobility equipment going into the landfill. I mean, anytime people get discharged from the hospital with mobility aids that they can't then give back, they wind up in the landfill or at Goodwill, and we wanted to recycle and redeploy that equipment. So that's what we are about. But in addition to that, we are about providing people with advice and empathy and suggestions from people who may have lived with disability longer than they have, or for people who are just coming to terms with the total boring fact of disability and the fact that having a mobility aid actually makes you more, not less, independent. So we are here for all of that. We have our website, which is mobilityaidslendinglibrary.org. And here you can fill out a form to get a mobility aid. You can also fill out a form to donate a mobility aid so that we can essentially provide the matching service between what you have and what somebody else needs. We lend all of the equipment free of charge. People can keep it as long as they want, including forever. We also have a partnership with the Monroe County Public Library and their Library of Things. We are so happy about this. This means you can go into the downtown branch of the Monroe County Public Library and check out one of the smaller mobility devices. So basically, canes, crutches, rollators, things like that that fit in the small room behind the circulation desk on the upper floor. And if you have a library card, and are a county resident, you can check something out, and also you don't have to give it back. All right. If you've got a knee surgery coming up, you need a shower bench, you need a rollator, we got it. All right. You have a friend or a loved one who used a mobility scooter or something like that, and maybe they recently passed. You don't know what to do with it. We'll tell you what to do with it. Plug it in. The most expensive thing on power wheelchairs is their batteries. And so we have a lot of power wheelchairs that we cannot lend out because the batteries are dead. So keep it plugged in and then donate it to us. Somebody else will be able to use it. Okay, so we are volunteers. Just wanted to give you an idea of the kinds of places we have been getting funding. We do get individual donations. Well, we do not pay, we do not charge for the mobility equipment. Sometimes people feel like making a donation. That's awesome. We also have a Kroger campaign. So if you don't have an organization designated to get your Kroger charity dollars, feel free to add the Mobility Aids Lending Library. We've all been doing Facebook fundraisers on our birthdays. That's brought in some money. We were the recipients of a City of Bloomington Digital Equity Grant, and we are using that to make our website more interactive and so that people will be able to see exactly what we have and indicate what they would like from our storage. We also got a grant last year from the Tri Kappa Foundation. We will receive a grant from a wonderful group called the Persisterhood. They sell crafts, if you know about them. They're super fun. And also we got a grant from Beth Shalom Synagogue. And we have needs. So as you heard earlier and you saw in that picture, our space is crammed full of stuff. And we are, we don't know if the perfect space exists, but this is a group of people who might know. Is there a space close to downtown so that people don't have to have a car necessarily to get there, ideally on the ground floor, and with more than about the 400 square feet of space we have now. We are currently in the basement of First Christian Church. They've been lovely. The space, however, is not ideal, and it also costs us money that we don't have. We are always interested in having some able-bodied volunteers. We do pretty well for ourselves, but occasionally it helps to have somebody with us who can lift a wheelchair or something heavy off of a shelf. And as I mentioned, batteries for power wheelchairs. We have so many devices, so many more devices we could give out if we could afford the batteries for them. We also people always want rollators, the walkers with wheels and a seat. Sometimes we're able to purchase a few of those. Yeah, yeah. Can we take that home? Can we take that home? We are not stealing Charlotte's rollator, I promise. And we are hoping to get to the point where we can pay some of our officers for all the time that they spend working on the Mobility Aids Lending Library. So we are also looking for some additional partners. As we work very closely with the CCA, Monroe County Public Library, Anderson's Medical. If anybody doesn't know about Bloomington Fire Department's mobile integrated health team, they are amazing. And they come to us all the time. If anybody here is well connected with Bloomington Hospital, we hope to provide a service similar to what they're doing in Columbus. Columbus Regional Hospital will often send people to us rather than having them wait for insurance to approve something, or maybe insurance won't approve it because, insurance. So, but you need it, we have it. You don't have to prove to us that you need it, okay? So we are really eager to get the word out there more. We serve a lot of people, but we could certainly serve more people. Okay, and we do meet in person last Sunday of the month, Monroe County Public Library, from 1 to 3. We often have people drop in, and it really does. We've been connected with so many interesting people this way who come looking for something, but they stay for the advice. Okay, and then finally, I want to tell you a little bit about something. As Michael mentioned, for 21 years, 21 great years, I worked at Indiana University Maurer School of Law. I was the assistant dean for international programs there. And I found I was spending all of my free time working on issues having to do with disability and accessibility. And I said to myself, if I get a chance for a second act doing something that somehow combines my love of the international and my love of the accessible, I want to do that. And so I got hooked up with Access Able, which is a company in the United Kingdom, surrounded by British people. If you can't tell by their teeth, oh my God, they'd kill me. They heard me say that. No, surrounded by British people. And we provide detailed accessibility information about venues. And I don't just mean concert venues, I mean anywhere. I mean the IMU, I mean your university, your hospital, your business, so that people with disabilities can make up their own minds about whether that venue suits their needs, because no two disabilities are the same. We are here to tell you. I'm just going to show you a very quick overview. Our first client in the United States was Princeton University, so you can go on our website, accessableusa.com, and you can look at the types of things we've done for Princeton. For those of you representing Indiana University in this room, I've been working on you since October 2023. Time has come. Now, the city of Bloomington. City of Bloomington, we're going to have a new convention center. Bloomington is this blueberry in a bowl of tomato soup that is Indiana. We want to draw convention visitors here. We are known as being the most open, most equitable, most caring community in Bloomington. Then by all means, we should be the most accessible, and we should show how we are the most accessible. Because accessibility, I'm all for the ADA, but the ADA was written for wheelchair users, and the vast majority of people with disabilities are not wheelchair users. So what we do at Access Able is we capture information about lighting levels, noise levels, color contrast, whether you're going to have a carpet that's shiny and patterned. You wouldn't believe it, but people with vertigo, people with Parkinson's disease, often you get a really patterned carpet and it throws off your balance. So I'm thinking about the new convention center, and I'm thinking about the carpet in it. And we have the ability to do this right. So I won't go on too much more about that, but these are the kinds of guides we produce so that the person with the disability can see what they are in for. This will tell them where there is Braille. This will tell them how far from the entrance Do they have to walk before they can sit down? This will tell them whether there's a hearing assistance system. This will give you 360-degree pictures of the bathroom stall. And believe me, there are those of us who need to know that information. We'll tell you about the parking lot, and we will also give the venue owner a list of all the things where they may or may not be in violation of the ADA or may be able to do better, and all the things you could do that don't actually cost that much money to make your venue more accessible. So anyway, the North American office of Access Able USA is right here in Bloomington. We are located at the Mill, and by we, I mean me. And I'd love to talk to you. And I know that all of our guests today would love to talk to you about the Mobility Aids Lending Library, about accessibility and disability in general, and about the Council for Community Accessibility. So thank you very much for your time.
Leslie, thank you for all that you're doing. I worked at Microsoft for quite a few years. Yeah, okay. And the CEO, Satya Nadella, in about 2016, hired a new position, the Chief Service Officer, Jenny LaFleury, and it changed, transformed. And I saw you had Microsoft Word up there. My heart went aflutter, because they did so much with hiring people with disabilities to design the products so that they worked for people with those disabilities. And to your point, so the mandate was out within the company that anytime we did presentations, and I oversaw international, so we had a lot of people all over the world, and the intersectionality is so critical because once we started using, we had a mandate that when you use PowerPoint, which of course we always use PowerPoint, you had to use the captions across, which most people don't realize it's built into the system. You can just click it. There's also a dyslexia function in most of Microsoft products that allows for that, but people don't know it. The Xbox products, they designed for people with limb issues, etc. But it totally transformed. But the feedback, to your point, that I got from my international students was they could understand what we were saying because English was the common language. But by having just the captions above, and many of them didn't have disabilities, but they could follow so much better. And I get so frustrated. So that over to IU. When you go to, and I'm looking at John Hobson, when you go into the IU auditorium and you go see a production, my husband is Serbian, English is a second foreign language. And half the time in the productions, he's like, what did they say? What did they say? And so then I tell him what they said, and then I miss what they said. And John and I had this conversation on Hadestown. How do we get IU to really embrace this? Because there are easy mechanisms out there. We have a lot of international students. We have a lot of aged people, and we don't have all the tools.
I thought we had the technology because you see it at the opera. Well, I think we should do something about that.
That would be welcome.
This is a friendly question, but it's also a difficult one. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was president when I was born, though I don't remember that at all. And I grew up across the Hudson River from him, so he was a person that we were very proud of in New York State and the nation. But we all know that he had polio when he was young, and he never wanted to be photographed in the wheelchair. And I think in later years, perhaps there was a statue of him. I also am a retired minister, and I had a woman in one of my churches who had multiple sclerosis, which caused her to be in a wheelchair. She never wanted her picture taken in the wheelchair. She considered that a contradiction to her faith. So our attitude about disabled persons has really changed through the years. But what would you say to people who feel that way, that they don't want to be photographed, they don't want to be put in a position because of that disability?
I would love to have Susan Sizer answer that.
speak to that. Thank you for asking that question. As a professor of anthropology emerita, I taught a course called Stigma. And it was all about how people are afraid of the perceptions of others. And that was a big thing with exactly what you're mentioning, is that people don't feel, they feel ashamed and stigmatized by having to use a mobility device. And that's one of the things that MAL kind of can help with the peer support aspect, is to say, empowering you and enabling you, don't worry about what other people think you look like. Just do the thing that allows you to be an active person in the world and change their attitudes towards what you might feel is a stigma. But it's really hard. It's a really hard thing to get over. And we have to focus on what the relationship of each person is to stigma. Like, everybody feels stigmatized by something and feels they're hiding something. So we have to realize that we're on both ends. It's a double-sided coin. In some areas of your life, you are the non-stigmatized person, and in some areas you are stigmatized. So I think in the instances you're talking about, like with FDR, at that moment in time, he was ashamed of being in a wheelchair, and people saw being in a wheelchair as a pathetic situation. Fortunately, that's changed. There are different aspects of fortunately, stigmas change. So at one point, it was very stigmatizing to be homosexual. Now there's been a gay rights movement, right? Now there's a disability rights movement. Now it's stigmatizing to smoke cigarettes, whereas once it was glamorous, right? So these things change. That's the best I have to say about both. Sure, sure.
I knew it'd be a wonderful answer. And fun factoid, it is debatable whether FDR had polio or whether he had what I had, which was Guillain-Barré syndrome. And his wheelchair, one of his wheelchairs used to be at the old Bloomington Hospital. I don't know if they moved it over. It was like a lovely, it was like a lovely chaise on wheels. Yeah.
Is there any questions online, just to make sure? No? Okay, we have time for one more.
Oh,
Sorry.
maybe two more.
Hello, thank you so much for sharing this story. And I love the notion that accessibility for those with disabilities increases accessibility for all. So that's something that I will continue to preach. I'm sure the answer to this question is yes. But have you explored partnering with battery manufacturers for MAL to try and outfit donated products with new batteries through sponsorship?
So I would say, and MAL members join in, we haven't thought about partnering with battery manufacturers. I think all of the ones that we work with are in the ones that where we get batteries are in China. We have partnered with Anderson's Medical Supplies, and they're very helpful to us, but they also don't give us free batteries. Any other thoughts on that, MAL members?
We have to order them, and so I think I think our best bet would be partnering with some type of mobility company that already gets those batteries. There's just such a wide range. It's not like they're standard to every chair. They take completely different types of batteries, and they can range anywhere from like about $70 a set to over $300 a set. It's a huge range, depending on, and because we get donated wheelchairs, we don't always know what we're going to need or need to have. So it's complicated.
We're trying to get one more question. Mark? No.
I have a couple questions, easy questions. First of all, I'd like to mention about FDR. I know I used to date the daughter of the guy who was the head of Secret Service. And during World War II, he was the main guy that guarded FDR. To this day, when I see old flicks, I still see him in the back of the, anyway. He said that FDR did not want to be photographed in a wheelchair during World War II because he was afraid it would present the image of being frail to the enemy. And that's why he didn't want to be photographed. It wasn't because he was ashamed or anyway. What do batteries cost and how long will they last? How far can you go on a charge?
So Karen just mentioned how much they cost. So often in the hundreds of dollars, up to $300 for a set. And how far you can go depends on your chair. But usually, I mean, I have a chair where you can go up to 7 miles on a charge. Other thoughts, wheelchair using friends?
I think these big chairs will go further than that on a charge, but some of the smaller ones, like, sorry, Marche, to use you as an example, but those chairs probably don't have as much battery capacity because they're designed to be portable. Oh, and I didn't mention lithium batteries. We have a scooter that we've been unable to place because it needs an $800 battery. Now the batteries in a chair, they can last if the chair is used and the batteries are maintained, as mentioned earlier, they can last from 2 to 5 years, depending on their use. So they do, but the problem is that most of the chairs that come into us, the batteries are not good still. So then we have to purchase batteries in order to place those devices.
I can usually go 2 days on my charge, but then it starts flashing and that's scary. To run out of a battery is like, you're really stuck.
Okay, I think we have to wind it up.
Thank you so much. Lesley, in honor of your program, we'll be donating $100 for the quarter to the warehouse. So thank you so much for enlightening us all and helping us understand a little better about how we can all positively impact. So, and with that, I want to acknowledge all those who helped bring this program to life. Natalie, our executive assistant. John Armstrong, thanks for jumping in and being the greeter with the magic badge. Hank for the introductions. Megan Gerhart, way to go, stepping up and running Zoom. Thank you from afar. And the reflection, thanks to Steve Wicks for the great notes that he took. Marilyn, thanks for all the work you're doing reporting. That's the hardest one. Michael, as always, your speedy wheels with the camera and mic operation. And Isaac, for all you do with the audio. Our next meeting will be on the 18th here in the French Panna Room. It's going to be our club assembly. We'll review where we stand from an AMPETH standpoint, both post and pre-political dilemma, shall we say, and also talk about where we are to our goals and a little discussion with regards to some of the Rotary Foundation opportunities that are out there. And with that, Isaac, if you could put the chart up and if we could all stand if able to repeat the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And fifth, is it fun?